We start off with a scene of our main character, McCaffrey, in jail, shaving off his beard, showing guys if you get rid of your trim, you'll be able to get some yourself. He then dresses up as a security guard and escapes the prison, and no inmates rat on him for some reason. He somehow finds a man who is stupid enough to sell a jacket for $5 and talks him down to $3. Jacket conveniently matches the ones the valet uses at the airport. McCaffrey gets a $100 tip and drives off with a fancy car, or because he's sad that his girlfriend's boob is leaving him. He then meets Burke, the very FBI agent that put him in the slammer in the first place, and McCaffrey tells him if he lets him go, he'll help him catch the Flying Dutchman before being carted off back to jail. Then later, in a romantic chair-sitting scene, Burke's wife says, "He's very charming, you should definitely get him out of prison." So the criminal avoids another prison sentence and is released into the wild again under the FBI's watch. And then that very afternoon, he goes to the Salvation Army, and to the first person he meets, he's like, "Yep, let me just put on your dead husband's clothes, and I legally get to live in your fancy mansion and have sex with you 22-year-old daughter. Espresso, please." They eventually find a man who is smuggling a bunch of Snow White books from Spain and deservedly gets locked up at airport security. During the interview, a complete stranger then walks into the interrogation room with no legitimate clearance, tells the agent to leave the room, lethally injects the man, and then vanishes without anyone noticing. Then they soon find out that each book has a single piece of paper in it that is used to forge famous documents. Episode starts with Burke salivating over how much work he has to do and decides not to go home, thus avoiding his wife's cooking and making Satchmo the man of the house, revealing the true heir to the white collar. Then after a brief conversation about anniversaries, McCaffrey is now thinking about his ex having a mime orgy in France. The two quickly find out who's behind it because the art forger who actually makes them signs his name on them like a dumbass. Then they have an awkward and pointless confrontation with him, and then he immediately buys a plane ticket to leave the country. However, instead of flying that very day, he casually purchases a ticket for next week, giving the police ample time to arrest him. They eventually discover his warehouse because a bald guy in an ascot said a walnut told him about it. And then both the criminal McCaffrey and Agent Burke run next to the van to sneak in, cleverly running around in broad daylight where the driver and dozens of other dock workers wouldn't notice, avoiding their vision cones like a stealth video game. Unfortunately, they don't have a warrant to get in, so McCaffrey activates his passive ability and sets his alarm anchor to go off in the warehouse, paving the way for the FBI to come in and arrest everybody, thus ending the two-part pilot and solving the case. So the episode starts with a terrorist named Ghost who recently killed a guy. There's a woman witness, and the agent informs him that he'll keep her safe, showing off his bent business card. The two decide that the best way to lure out a ghost terrorist is to throw a big fashion party, so Joe Biden gives them a $5,000 budget and they enlist the agent's wife to plan it. So they get 60+ hot female models, all the fizzy bubbler they can drink, and somehow get a rooftop garden inn in the middle of Manhattan. The witness previously said that she can identify the killer by their voice, and so they drag her around the party like a terrorist metal detector. Ghost notices something is up and leaves, ruining the sting operation, stunning them that they just wasted $5,000 of taxpayer money, although that's not as big of a waste as Burke's wife buying him a watch with no numbers on it. Later, Criminal tells Bald Guy that he uses Mad Magazine puzzles to tell secret codes to him and his ex. Then after a 2-hour stakeout at a hotel, Ghost escapes and kills someone over a deal gone bad, stabbing him and putting a giant red velvet dress in his mouth. They find a hole in the dress, and the two safely assume that there used to be a flash drive in there with vital information. They go to the designer of the dress, who tells them that it was a fake dress and he hid the real one somewhere else, revealing the drive. They stage the second sting operation and again drag the original witness with them. Ghost calls McCaffrey on a cell phone and they have a conversation alone, forgetting the fact the witness can recognize the killer's voice and can pin the person responsible for the original killing. She gets captured the next scene. Then McCaffrey tells Burke not to plan out any type of rescue and just improvise it like a true bro. This conversation doesn't come back again and gets no payoff. The final confrontation is at a park where Ghost gives back the girl for the dress and says not to follow him because he can blow her up with his phone. He then proceeds to flex his Verizon 5G unlimited plan before taking off. McCaffrey tells everyone to spam the terrorist's number because he doesn't know how to mute calls and just keeps answering them, ironically not understanding the concept of ghosting, thus foiling his grand escape. Then the episode ends with McCaffrey watching a recording of his ex's boob, revealing a revelation. Wait. Boob tour. The The episode starts with Italian kingpin Artie Bucco, who asks the FBI to help him find his lost Bible. They then find out a homeless man took it so he can heal his dog, but it was stolen by someone else. So the two handed him 87 giant binders filled with every criminal in New York City and said to identify the thief before sundown, until conveniently a red binder gets thrown on the desk, detailing how the man died 2 seconds ago. At the crime scene we get introduced to an investigator who takes them off the case, only for them to just keep working on it. McCaffrey ends up identifying a suspect, goes on a date with them, comments on their filthy calluses, and then goes back to her apartment to bone. McCaffrey ends up finding that she has the book, convinces her to sell it to him, and so the next day we get an awkward two-way sexy pat-down, and the two drive off to an empty lot for the exchange. She gets her gun out and double-crosses him, but in response he holds the book up to his face, ensuring she won't shoot, leaving the rest of his body open to bullets, but she just shoots the book anyhow and gets arrested by the police. Burke and McCaffrey introduce the homeless man to Artie Bucco, who gives him a favor to get his dog treated, which probably will backfire on him once his boys bust his kneecaps for not paying the medical bills plus interest. So after a long day, McCaffrey then proceeds to light the boob door on fire, only to reveal a map to Treasure Planet, and that's the first 4 episodes of White Collar.